Welcome to the planning committee. First of all, minutes. Members, is it your wish I sign as a true and correct record? All happy with that?
Apart from one thing, Chairman, it hasn't got me in the apologies, it's got Diane Osborne instead.
Oh, right. So I'm sure we can put that right.
Yeah, you would hear them.
Otherwise, are you happy? Agreed? Thank you. If I can get the pen out, if I get. Thank you. Copy your slabs.
Councillor Alan Chartler, Councillor David Smith, Councillor Nigel Carr and Councillor Richard.
I think other than that, it's full house. Okay. Any interest? Disclosable interests? Chairman? Yes, Councillor.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I know the Mr. and Mrs. Frost, who are the applicants at the Watford Road application, but we've not discussed the application at all.
Okay, thank you.
And I would just like to declare, even though it probably doesn't matter, but on the same application, the applicant's father is my postman. And yes, and I haven't spoken to him before, and I know I don't need to, but I thought I'd get it out there just in case, so it's in the minutes and it's noted.
Yeah, while we're on that one, I went fishing with him 25 years ago, and I think his sister was a girlfriend of mine for about 5 weeks when I was 16. So I don't really know him. Any other interest?
Chair, I don't know whether I need to mention it, but I know just about everybody in the room. So,
well, that doesn't matter. If you do socialise with them. No.
not very often.
Okay. Party whipping arrangements. Right, members of the public, that means we don't get together on political sides or get together at all and decide how we're going to vote for planning applications. Right. To announce any applications withdrawn. Well, I'm sure you're both aware. You're aware that the first two applications on the agenda are. First of all, the Kilsby one is a delegated approval. That one is 1016, and the one at Daventry, which is 1185, has been withdrawn. So we're 2 down at the moment. The position on appeals is 6% and 86% majors on time. So we're still, our figures are still okay at this moment. Bit of housekeeping, which I'm sure you've all heard before. The alarm bell rings. It's not a practice, so please go out the way you come in and assemble outside. So please switch your mobile devices to silent. Although the chairman's not here, we collect £10 a time with one exception in the room, because somebody's waiting for an urgent phone call with a possible illness. So don't let your phone ring, please. The proceedings are being recorded. The speakers will have 3 minutes, and after that you'll hear a tone and asked to wind up. It's the only opportunity you have to speak, so please don't interrupt during the rest of the debate. And I'm asking you not to clap, cheer, hiss, boo, or stand up during the meeting. Give everybody a chance to speak, in other words. You will see officers speaking at the same time as you are, which looks incredibly bad manners, but it's the only way they can get answers to what you're saying and the point you're making. I think that's all the housekeeping. So I think we go straight on to the first application, which should be Watford, I believe. And I find it. The application number is 00049.
Thank you, Chairman. Watford Lodge Farm is a commercial scale farm complex which is employed for a mixture of both livestock and arable purposes. It's situated to the north-west of West Hampton Road and approximately 1 mile north-east of Watford Village. Apart from paddock cows, the farm complex itself is quite isolated. The complex itself forms several courtyard areas in which Watford Lodge and Collie Cottage, the 2 main residences on the farm, are situated. The north-east of these residences is a quadrangle The north-eastern corner of this quadrant was once occupied by a brick barn, linking a two-storey secondary barn constructed in stone and brick, and a single-storey holiday cottage which was converted under a previous planning consent. The courtyard area is approached by separate access, directly serving a series of functional agricultural buildings towards the rear quarters of the complex. In the footprint of the demolished barn, application proposes a 3-bedroom house for essential rural worker. Essentially, this is an agricultural worker's dwelling. This application is effectively a resubmission of the previous refused application, DA 2015-0550, but with further evidence submitted. You'll see from the report that this previous application was refused, and the reason quoted for the refusal was the proposed new dwelling in line with the evidence submitted with the application for this development and the considered opinions of the council's retained agricultural consultant is not necessarily required for essential rural workers from a planning perspective. Notably, on the basis that there are other residences on the site considered to fulfil or potentially fulfil the agricultural or other requirements of this particular unit. And as such, approval of the proposal will result in an unnecessary and unsustainable new dwelling in the open countryside, contrary to the development plan and policies. In the case of the previous and this revised application, the applicant had originally intended to apply for the conversion of the barns. According to the supporting documentation of the application, they became structurally unsafe and required demolition. The proposal for members tonight seeks to replace these structures. The proposed dwelling would form an L-shaped building with a single-storey projection and would be built in reclaimed bricks and stone from the original construction. The new application was supported by additional information, which again set out within the report. Officers consider there are 4 main issues relating to this application. These are namely the principle of additional agricultural dwelling, the design appearance of this particular construction, any impact on residential amenity, and any parking issues. Policy context governs that any agricultural care case is actually critical to the principle of the whole of new residents in this rural location. In the opinion of officers, clear opportunities to present additional detailed evidence for this and the previous application that demonstrates a credible case for a new additional agricultural dwelling. Agricultural consultant within the report states that the additional information seeks to address her concerns about the availability of other dwellings on the site, but considers that no further details are forthcoming to address the issue of sustainability of the livestock enterprise. It remains her opinion that out-of-hours functional requirements of the holding can be met by the 2 existing on-site staff who could summon any additional necessary assistance, without the need for a 3rd on-site worker. The consultant is further concerned about the statement in the supporting material that the suggestion of a variation of occupancy condition on the holiday let is not viable, since the holiday let is an integral part of diverse income for the farm. The resultant implication for business needs to be propped up by a non-agricultural income, just the enterprise itself is unsustainable without it. Moreover, having reviewed the accounts, the consultant can see no convincing reference to income from the cattle business, this being the key part of any justification for an on-site worker. In conclusion, the consultant considers the livestock enterprise necessitates for 1 worker to be on-site, and the residential accommodation already on the land is capable of adequately meeting the agricultural requirements of this holding from a planning perspective, prefers a wider and stricter test in the personal desires of a particular family on site. Often sympathise with the position of the applicant as a result of any refusal, but consider the human aspect of his own right is insufficient to outweigh the policy presumption against such development, which cannot be demonstrated. Regardless of the material consideration, the 2-storey residence will be slightly higher than the former building, but would broadly follow its footprint. Architecture will not appear incongruous in the farm complex generally. Overall, it replicates their wider character, especially as the barn situated to the northwest of the proposed residence is 2 stories, relatively large, bulky structure. The proposed dwelling would therefore meet the overall parameters of visual design criteria of respective policies. In terms of other relevant material considerations, this scheme is unobjectionable by officers. However, these are not sufficient to override the concerns about the principle and sustainability of the scheme. Having regard to the matters raised in the report, officers consider that there is insufficient evidence to support the need for an additional agricultural dwelling on this site and therefore recommend this application be refused. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, John. We have one speaker, Mr. Frost. No, excuse me a second. You're claiming, did you register to speak before 12 o'clock?
2 days ago, I emailed Bruce Allen.
No, it's the agent, probably.
Yes. Probably even got the email.
Yeah,
didn't it?
take it anyway.
Only one person speaking.
Right.
So it can be the Mr. Frost or the agent.
It can be one or the other, because there's anyone in favour, I'm afraid. So it can either be Mr. Frost or yourself, whichever wants to do it. Even though you did.
And can prove it.
No, there is no problem with you proving it. We only have 1 for and 1 against, and any appropriate parish council.
Ah, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry?
So I didn't understand when
Yeah.
you said
There can only
if we
be
have
one
any number of
speaker
speakers.
No, there can only be 1 speaker speaking for it.
Right.
If it's 3 parish councils like there is the next application, the 3 parish councils can speak.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so only one of you can speak on it.
Yeah, that's fine, I'll carry on.
Okay, well, the time
Good
is
evening,
now,
sorry. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Fred Frost, I'm a partner at J.L. Frost and Son of Watford Lodge. I'm speaking to support this application. We originally intended to convert the stable and granary and wagon hole that you've seen on there into a house for Edward, who's getting married next June. He's my grandson, and we made him a partner in the family business nearly 12 months ago, and he's the 5th generation of our family to be on the farm. Unfortunately, one of the spring storms, a large crack appeared in the front of the granary, and as it was in danger of collapsing, and right in front of the little holiday let that we've got, we thought we'd better take it down. So we took it down, we stored all the materials to reuse, all the wood, the bricks, roof and everything, and it's all there waiting now. Our architect suggested that as this would now be considered a new build, that we apply for an agricultural dwelling, which is essentially what it's going to be, because Edward works on the farm full time, and we would be happy to have agricultural tiling. We have 400 cattle in yards all year round, so Edward really needs to be on site 24/7. Now these cattle they don't belong to us, they're on what we call a headage basis. So we do all the work on them, we feed them, litter them, we do all the medication work, all the handling work, load them up. They come onto our farmers' calves and they go off as fat cattle after about 16 months. But they're not shown on our accounts as cattle that we sell because we're paid so much per head per week for them. So I did write to the agricultural consultant and tell her that it's shown on the accounts as yard rental and headage payment, which is why she didn't see why it was down as cattle income. Now James, my son, who also works on the farm, he works 3 days a week for the post office to supplement the farm income, and I help Edward while he's not there. So essentially, really, it means that Edward's the only full-time worker we've got on the farm now. And for safety reasons, it really needs a minimum, when you're handling this number of cattle, it needs a minimum of 2 people, and better if you've got 3. The agricultural consultant said at the end of the report that there was no need for an extra dwelling, and she did point out that as I was part-time, it would be quite possible for me to move off the farm and move away. Well, I've lived at Watford Lodge all my life, I was born there, I still work part-time, but I'm 72, I can still do a little bit on that. I do quite a lot on the farm, don't I? But I consider this to be rather unjust to expect me to move off. You know, it's a family business. It's not a new build. You know, I know it's considered a new build, but what we really want to do is to replace what was there on its same footprint, using all the same materials, and that will complete the courtyard effect that we've got in the yard that you can see there. It's just a shame, really, that the agricultural consultant didn't come out to the farm, and I think we could have explained better then exactly how the farm business was run, and shown her why we needed to have Edward there full time. With James being off the farm 3 days a week, and me being there part-time to help out when it was needed, I think she would have probably had a little bit better insight into what was happening if she'd actually come to the farm and have a look. So that's all I've got to say, ladies and gentlemen.
Could you wind up?
Yeah, that's all I've got to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right, local members. Councillor Osborne.
I just want to say the short bit, and then I'm going to listen to what other members have got to say. We've heard there that there's been 5 generations on the farm, and they were going to convert what was already there, but unfortunately not safe to, so it had to come down. They saved it all, hoping to put it back up, exactly the same place, exactly the same size, using exactly the same materials. So it's called a new build on one hand, but on the other hand, to me, it's no different. It's obvious, as we've heard, and you know, obviously they know better than anyone because they run the farm. And if the grandson is there and is there on his own the whole time, he needs somebody with him. And obviously, if they're looking after other people's cattle, you know, they have to really take care. So surely it would make more sense if they were living on the farm. So I'd just like to hear what everybody else says for us at Cabot. Continue. Thank you.
Thank you. The other local member is myself, and although I don't normally speak on applications, I do speak on ones inside my wards. I don't support the officer's advice. For many years now, a lot of these applications have come to committee. Farmers ones. In fact, there was one in Lombutley quite a few years ago, and it was reversed for the same reason. You've got to remember, a farmer usually is born in the house where they live. They have children, they have sons, their sons want to take over the farm, their sons need to live on site. And I can think of many, many instances over the years where you can't expect a man of 72, after living in his farmhouse for 72 years, to go and live in a community where he's never lived. He wants to stay on his farm. And he doesn't want to build a brand new house and gain loads of money out of it. Okay, there are some holiday lets there. He doesn't want to change the listing of the holiday lets so they can be ordinary houses. He doesn't want to gain money. He wants to put back up what they had to take down because it was dangerous. There's the applicant there, there's his son, who's a part-time postman, and there's the grandson. The grandson mainly looks after the farm. It was quite a small farm, and diversification with some holiday lets, and then with some turbines. And now it's looking after cattle. 400 cattle is a lot of cattle. It doesn't matter who owns it. There's one hell of a lot of cattle to look after. And I've seen over the years applications come to this committee with people trying to get build units with 6, and they've got half an acre or something. But this is a genuine farm, and I hope the committee will support the application. He's not trying to put wool over anybody's eyes. Genuine farmer, just wants to carry on genuine farming with his son and his grandchildren. Okay, so over to you, members. Councillor Paul.
Thank you, Chairman. Perhaps clarification about the visit or not of a consultant. Whilst I appreciate that this has come to committee before, I'm concerned that...
Councillor Paul, it hasn't come to committee before.
Right,
it was a delegated refusal.
Okay, so it's been in the net before.
Yeah.
I'm just concerned, you know, whether it was a consultant visit or not. If it wasn't, then that does concern me. I refer to page 61, third paragraph from the bottom. Family felt to existing on-site workers. I'm not going to read it all out, that part there. Regarding financial sustainability, there comes my dilemma. We need to, if we are to survive, maintain the rural economy, and by doing such, we need people to maintain it. In this ever-ageing world, and with due respect to the applicant, both he and I are not getting any younger, and we need somebody to carry on the business. It's almost impossible for new homeowners to go to villages and buy. I think this is a very worthy cause, and quite often I will be opposed to applications in open countryside. But quite honestly, Chairman, I think this is an appropriate dwelling. It will enhance the rural economy. I would urge that obviously the younger son would carry on with the holiday lets, diversify, and hopefully take on further employees, if that makes sense, in the forthcoming years, Chairman. I have no problem with proposing that we go against officer advice.
Thank you. Do you have a second then? Thank you.
Excuse me, Chairman.
Sorry?
I would like to second it, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll let the local member second it.
Thank you.
Okay, first of all, Chairman, do you want to answer the question, did the agricultural consultant go out and see it?
I can't confirm that, to be honest, but
Because the applicant said she didn't.
the situation may have been that during the first application, those issues were considered, but I can't actually confirm that. With regards to another issue that's been raised, I would like to really point out to you on page 63 of the report, and where the agricultural consultant sets out their view. And what they say is, says that, in my opinion, the size and nature of the livestock enterprise will not warrant any more than one on-site worker, albeit that the day-to-day operation of the business will require further input. In summary, I'm satisfied the cattle enterprise warrants one on-site worker.
Okay, thank you. Well, it's Councillor Osborne, you seconded it. You reserve your right to speak in that while.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Frenchman next then.
Well,
Councillor, sorry, I beg your pardon. It is Councillor Panchett, then Councillor Frenchman. We've got you to do stuff before, but I do have the names in order.
Yeah. Okay, well, I mean, as far as looking after cows is concerned, I mean, having two people there and possibly a third is definitely a good idea, because I've been around cows quite a lot and I know that that's kind of the case. And with regards to some of the things that the officer mentioned, with regards to planning considerations, it's not an issue with things like parking and impact on the site area. And I think that if the applicant was to apply to restore the agricultural buildings to what they were before, I'm sure that that wouldn't really be an issue, and therefore you'd have a building then that would apply for a change of use. And I might be wrong, if perhaps officers could put me right in that. It seems to me that it's a bit of a long-winded way of cutting out the middleman right now and approving this application now, Chairman.
Thank you. We'll find out that. I will ask our solicitor lady.
The building that was going to be converted has been demolished, and I think all the officers actually have some sympathy with this case, in that if it was a conversion, there would have been quite a simple exercise to make an application for the conversion. The difficulty we have is because the building has come down, we have to look at it in an entirely different way and under entirely different policies, and that is a new dwelling in the countryside, which is why this process has gone through. We've been going through this process in terms of seeing whether it is essential and what reason could we give for allowing a new dwelling in the countryside, because unfortunately, because the building's come down, that is the way we have to deal with it, and obviously that is how the officers have made that recommendation.
Isn't it silly? Because if a person has a dilapidated barn and they keep looking after it and build it up and make it look marvellous, they can then get permission. But because the guy knocked it down because it's getting dangerous, you can't build it back up again.
The question was, Chairman, could it be reinstated as an agricultural building as it was?
No, because it's been knocked down, I think.
Once it's done down, there's nothing there.
Yeah, it's been demolished, and therefore you would need, even to build up to an agricultural standard, you would have to have planning permission to do so.
Councillor Frenchman.
Thank you, Chair. I think I'm minded to to support my colleagues, but I'm just concerned about the appearance and design of the building, and as long as we can control and qualify what it's going to look like and how it fits into that quadrangle, then I think I would be in support of it. It's also, by the by, quite nice to hear of an agricultural building as a holiday let that's actually working, as we seem to get so many around here that don't work. Allegedly. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson, then Councillor...
Thank you, Chair. Basically, I've realised that I do have a minor interest to declare here, because I used to keep a caravan there. I don't believe they do it anymore. I don't know, but I don't keep a caravan there anymore. But what I was going to say was basically, this is a very odd situation, isn't it? If a building starts to fall down, surely you can repair it. Unless they remove every scrap of it, it's still repairable. Now, I don't know the situation here, but now what I'm saying is, if they then did that, surely they could then apply to convert it to a dwelling. Am I not right?
Yes, you've just been told that's right.
Yeah. And has it been totally removed?
Yes.
It has. So there's nothing else.
There are pictures of it.
Well, I know there are pictures, but I wasn't aware whether they've actually removed everything.
So you can see how dangerous it is, or it was.
Is that what's there there? Yes, to clarify, that's where the big is being installed. That's not actually part of the building.
No.
You've got pictures.
That's all pictures of Wakefield.
There is a picture of the area.
Yeah, we got,
Yeah.
there are pictures of the building as well.
And the other pictures.
I'd like to see pictures of it.
Yeah, you can see
Well, these
that.
pictures were before it was just.
There it is.
That's before, that's not there now. That's gone. That was to demonstrate why it was changed.
There's a
We've no
picture of
pictures
some
of
of the
that.
space. You just showed it.
I thought we had.
Go back.
Okay, you happy with that?
No.
There.
There.
Right.
There's nothing there.
So that's even dug the foundations out. For goodness sake.
So actually, Mr. Frost should have left a few courses, and it would have been a lot easier.
Councillor Lingsworth next.
Yes, it's a difficult application, but there is a lot of other barn, and in the report, those barns could be converted. So if we are minded to have this application to go against officer advice, could we withdraw or taking away the development right for all the other buildings?
In terms of the remaining buildings, I think what's alluded to within the agricultural consultant report is they're alluded to the fact that there is an existing barn on the site which does not form part of the holiday let, which can be converted under the Park Q development rights. Under Park Q, the applicants may have an opportunity to exercise those rights to convert it as a dwelling, and which could be occupied by the applicants or by another family member. So eventually, if members are minded to approve this application, we could have Watford Lodge, Collie Cottage, the holiday let, the new dwelling, and a building which could probably be converted into a Park Q as a dwelling. So eventually, we could have 5 dwellings within that triangle.
Provided they have planning permission.
Providing the planning application came in.
No, it's not. Part Q is not a planning application. It is under the new regulations which were introduced, which are in his permitted development, subject to the applicants considering issues regarding access, design and appearance, flooding, but it doesn't deal with the principle of the conversion. That means the actual use of it for residential purposes.
To clarify, John, can you just use this diagram, which one is... So it's this one here.
If
Okay.
you look at, go to Google Maps, you can see it more clearly.
There's actually, is there a file on it on? No, that's not it.
It's this one here.
So you can go back, it is actually there. Oh, was it?
Yeah.
on that? Was it on that?
It's on the previous one. That one, isn't it?
So this one here, this one here, bottom right.
It's the middle one, all there.
This one here.
Okay.
So this one at the bottom, just to clarify, the agricultural consultant is saying that the picture on the bottom right is capable, without permitted development, to be converted to residential.
No. This is the open fronted barn we're talking about, is it? Which is just next door to the holiday let.
This here, yes.
Attached, physically attached.
And that doesn't go away if this permission is granted.
Those rights can still be exercised under this development.
Next person to speak is Councillor Paul.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I do take on board what our officers have said, bearing in mind that they never let us down in the past and they won't let us down going forward with their advice. I've worked, as many people have known, on the JPU to, plans to protect our rural villages, coalescence for villages, etc. However, the other side of the coin is we need a rural economy. Whilst I do accept what the officer is saying about it could end up as 2 or 3 dwellings, provided, the family diversify. I have often used Skylark Farm in Staverton as an example of diversification, where predominantly they are chicken farmers, or whatever you call it, egg breeders, and they have diversified, they have employed local people, and seemingly have done very little harm. I'm keen to promote rural economy, on a minuscule scale, and I think this is one that we need to promote. And what I didn't see in the conditions, purely and simply because it's there for refusal, I suppose, is that the applicant has stated that all materials were carefully taken down and stored. I would like a condition that if the application does go through, that all materials will be recycled in the new build. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Paul. Councillor Wesley.
Listen to everything that's said here, and I pretty much agree with what my fellow councillors have said along these lines. I do think it's important that we, regarding the report, on the financial side and viability, I do think it's a little bit odd to say take away the holiday let, which is obviously going to remove income from the farm, and then say the cattle enterprise isn't viable. It's a whole unit situation here, and I think it's important we realise that. And the holiday let is probably not an option to remove income from the farm in order to let somebody live there to actually carry on doing it. I do think it's also odd that the officer didn't seem to have picked up where the aspect of the finances of this enterprise go as well, because the applicant quite clearly stated that there is finances visible in the accounts for that enterprise, and for me as well, 400 plus cattle is a lot of cattle to look after. If there's you never know what major issues are on a farm, and sometimes they can be critical and very, very difficult for one person, sometimes 2 people, and particularly when you think that obviously at times one of those people might not be on site. People do have to have time off, and there is illness and etc. etc. So for me, this is a building replacing another building. It's not really hurting anybody. I think it'll be positive for the rural economy, as already been said, and I think we should go against officers' advice.
I've got 2 more speakers, and I think we're. Jim wants
Wesley wanted to, for clarification.
Okay. Would you like to say something, Jim?
Yes, I appreciate members are speaking about the size and scale of the cattle enterprise. What an agricultural dwelling does, it deals with out-hours functional requirements, not in-hours functional requirements. At the moment, you already have 2 people who are on the site. One of them only works part-time, which demonstrates there's not a requirement for them to be on full-time. There's only one of workers who doesn't live on the site that's actually full-time. So the requirement for the agricultural dwelling is based on out-of-hours functional requirement. And the consultant has clearly set out that those out-of-hours functional requirements can already be met by the existing 2 on-site staff. So what she's saying is that, in effect, it doesn't necessitate a then 3rd on-site staff to deal with those out-of-hours activities.
If I can just add, Chairman, the holiday let is a diversification, but that doesn't actually assist the justification for an additional agricultural workers building, which is part of the reasoning why the agricultural consultant has made a recommendation she has.
Again, I don't usually, as you're aware, get involved in applications, only as a casting vote, but I must say, you're talking about a man at 72. He isn't in the youngest, but I know what it is to be getting on with that. Things aren't so easy, and a great big beast to look after. One is difficult, let alone that one. The other guy's a postman. Now, I saw him delivering the post today in Watford at 12:05 when I come off the motorway, and he'd probably been there since 6 o'clock this morning. Well, that leaves one person left on the thing. And when we talk about all these things the farm has, it didn't have all those things. It was like every other farm. It was going downhill. And then it's got some holiday lets. And then it got permission for some wind turbines. So it got income from wind turbines, and it's got some income from holiday lets. And it is a farm, and it's a farm that's now taken on cattle. So anyway, that's my little local bit coming in. Right, 2 more to speak. Councillor Ed and then Councillor Robertson. Then I think we ought to get to the vote. It's okay, 3 more to speak. And 4 more to speak, as I said to you. Councillor Ed and Councillor Robertson.
Right, thank you, Chairman. Well, it looks as though I'm going to be one on my own, but I agree with officers. It does worry me that we don't seem to have taken an awful lot of notice of what the agricultural consultant has said. Is it a lady or a gentleman? It is a lady. Her report makes up most of this application. She knows her job. Whether she's been out there or not, I'm not sure. According to this, she has. She doesn't actually say she's been, but the way she speaks, she has. If she hasn't, perhaps we should defer it and get her to go out and have a look. But if she's been out there and she's got all the facts, fine. Although part of it says she hasn't got all the facts. If it's a farm, okay, holiday, that's fine. But if it was me and I wanted some family there, I'd put them in this house. Family's got to come before holiday let. And I think that they should be put in there. If this farm can support itself, holiday lets are an extra. Put them off for a few years and then doing it again wouldn't make much difference. I think family should be there. And I'm happy to go along with officers' advice on this.
Thank you, Councillor Ed. Councillor Robertson and Councillor Ritchie.
I was only going to make a quick remark, thank you, Chair, about something you've just iterated, and that's the fact that the part-timeness is largely due to the gentleman's age rather than the requirement on the farm. So I don't think it's really due to too much consideration.
Councillor Ritchie.
I had thought I was going to be the only questioning voice of this application. If I were the applicant, I would feel rather angry that there is even this process that he needs to go through, on the grounds that it is talking about replacing something that was there before. And if it had been repaired rather than knocked down, then he would have been in a quite separate situation, something quite different. I feel, though, a little uneasy when there is this question over whether the agricultural consultant was aware of the circumstances, and without that actually being checked, I do take the argument too that that if there is accommodation available on the premises, then if there is a need for an additional agricultural worker, that accommodation is better given to another agricultural worker rather than there for holiday lets. We are against building unless it is necessary in the countryside. If there was an application that was simply made for building a home for holiday lets, that would presumably be turned down. It just strikes me that in this case that that the accommodation is there. And what's more, if it is not, there are many farms around the area where you don't, with livestock, where you don't have anybody who is actually living on the amongst the farm buildings. This farm is only 3 minutes drive from Long Buckby or from Watford or from this great number of minutes drive from Daventry. It's not as if there is a shortage of accommodation in a very few minutes drive from the farm itself. And I just feel that until I heard again from our agricultural consultant, I would be reluctant to vote in favour of this application. That having been said, in the circumstances, I would also be reluctant to vote against it.
Councillor Osborne, you're the last person to speak as you seconded.
Right, thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to say something. The officer actually said that out of hours that there was a full-time person on site. There actually isn't. There's 2 part-time workers. That's Mr. Frost and Mr. Frost's son James. The grandson, who is the full-time worker, actually doesn't live on site, and this property is for him and his future wife. So I just like to get that straight right at the start, just to make members aware that is correct. Whereas the agricultural person said that there is full-time people there on the site, which isn't true. I still think that I don't think it's right when you've got, again, we're going to say it again, when you've got a gentleman that's in his 70s, he's lived there all his life, 5 generations there, and then now they're passing that his grandson, they should be happy that their grandson wants to be involved in the first place to actually take over the farm. So surely, for a start, saying that they could live in the holiday let and without, because it hasn't got residential permission, and why should they when they actually get money from the holiday lets in the first place, which actually is separate from that? And what a lovely place to go anyway. And we should be imploring that, not actually telling people to stop doing that. I understand that this is a very, very, very strange case, but I do think it's very silly that if Mr. Frost, if they had have left that there, even though it was in a dangerous condition, put in for it, waited for it to come through, even though that might have fallen down on someone, then maybe they might have got it through if it was minded. To me, sounds absolutely ridiculous for conversion. So again, I'm fully for officers refusing this application, as said by all the other members.
John, you want to follow aside?
Yes, I just want to, first and foremost, I just want to refer to page 61 with regards to Councillor Osborne's comments. I'm actually quoted from page 61 with regards to, it remains my opinion that out-of-hours cultural requirements of the whole can be met by the 2 existing staff on site. If necessary, can then call on additional help. It remains my opinion there's not a need for a 3rd on-site worker. There were some concerns raised by Councillor Osborne about the lack of availability for further accommodation on the site, about having to use the holiday accommodation. There is another building on site, which I already explained, can be used for residential accommodation if the applicants choose to exercise their permitted development rights. And thirdly, if members seek to approve this application contrary to the agricultural consultant who has had regard to the situation, who has had regard to the enterprise, that's the cattle enterprise, which is under which the agricultural workers dwelling is being applied for, and members need to provide a reason as to why the application should be approved.
Thank you, Chairman. You want to make a point?
Yeah, just Councillor Osborne says something. If a barn is falling down and it's not structurally sound, I don't think you can put a planning application to have it converted to a building, because a barn to be converted has to be proven to stand.
We've already said that if the planning application had come in before it fell down, they would have likely have got it.
No,
If it's struck.
If I could just clarify that point, Mr. Chairman. For a barn to be converted, one of the first criteria is that it has to be capable of converting. So it has to be structurally sound.
If that had repaired it first.
Before it can be converted. Demonstration structurally sound.
Okay, so if they'd have repaired it first, like a lot of people do, and then applied, there wouldn't have been a problem. Okay? I think we've had enough discussion, and then we have a proposal that the application be approved, which has been seconded. All those in favour?
So on what grounds,
Yes.
Chair?
Need a reason to approve.
I don't know that we need a reason.
The reason for approval?
Yeah. We're going against
I don't know.
Yeah, that's
We gave a reason, Chairman.
You do need a reason for approval.
Right, who was the proposer?
Councillor Paul, Chairman.
Right, Councillor Paul? I'm sure you consider that
Yes,
it is essential
I consider it as an appropriate dwelling to enhance the rural economy and to sustain a farm in an ageing population. Something that this country needs. No, that's not a planning reason that this country needs, but quite honestly, we need farming, we need a rural economy, and we have to open our eyes and say this is the way for it. I've quoted already one farm in Daventry, so I think it's an appropriate dwelling to enhance the rural economy and for the continuation of a rural business.
Thank you, Councillor Paul. You wish to make a quick point?
Yeah, I do. It's about the reasons, and I think as a councillor on this council, my reason is that I don't fully agree with our agricultural expert.
I go along with that.
Yeah, and I think that I believe that as well. I think it isn't now.
I just say something, Chairman, because I've sat patiently quietly through the whole thing tonight. I haven't said one word tonight, which is unusual, as you know. Just with regards to the reasons, I think members are giving some weight to the fact that there was a building there before, and this is effectively going back in a similar place. I feel happier if that's part of the reasoning behind it, because obviously that's a fairly unique situation. Because obviously if you go down to the agricultural consultant's advice and you allow it, the next person will come along and say, well, you went against the agricultural consultant's advice last time, why don't you go against it this time? So I think there has to be something different about this, and that is one of the things I've heard members discuss and say several times during the debate. Well, there's a building there before, big repaired the building, it's no big deal. So I think that ought to be part of the reason that there was a building there before, if that's acceptable.
Are you happy with that, Councillor Paul?
I am more than happy with that, Chairman. I thank our officers, and I also thank the applicant for taking down a building where his grandsons, looking at the building, could have died. But I take on board the...
Councillor French, very quickly, because we are voting
I have
now.
some very technical issues, problems with this, because in the past you have said to me and others on here, if we've got a consultant or a consultee, we're not good enough in our own knowledge to go against what our consultants say. And you say it every time with NCC and transport, and therefore you're going against your own advice. And so we cannot overturn the consultant's report because we don't know enough about it to overturn it.
I'm going to explain that. You will see two more applications in a minute. if you read your minutes, where the chief person that's being consulted, which is the NCC, recommends refusal, and yet the recommendation of this committee is approval. So you must judge those when we
allowed
come
us
to
to do it the other way round, where they've been happy with it and we've been unhappy with it.
Yeah, this is
You've
the-
not allowed us to overturn their
this is the other way. This
objection.
is the other way. This is the
I
other
don't see it that way. I'm sorry. I find that
John.
wrong.
I think from members' point of view, where members seek another view, they are entitled to a different view. However, where members seek to refuse an application, what should be borne in mind is that if you seek to refuse an application, there's a right of appeal. And at that point, in exercising that right of appeal, the local authority must provide evidence to substantiate those reasons for refusal.
That's very interesting, but we're not doing that, are we?
Okay, well, we're going to the vote now. We've had enough discussion on it. We've got a proposal, the application be approved. All those in favour, please show. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those against? The application is approved.
Just take a look at the conditions, Chairman.
Sorry?
Just take a look at the conditions.
Oh,
Because obviously the council Paul's already said, which is part of why I think to one point about
You're using existing material.
it's a replacement building.
Yeah.
That we're going to try and use as best as we can the existing material.
yeah. Can't possibly say the word.
Obviously, we've got to have an agricultural operating condition on it because it's an agricultural land.
Chairman, if I may say, if there are not sufficient recycled materials that have come out of the old building, then the applicant must source recycled materials, and they are plentiful to continue with the build.
Are you all happy with that?
Yes.
Okay.
And the other thing we will be there is remove basic development rights by the extension of the actual property itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you happy with that? Yeah. Okay, that's done as well. Okay, application is approved. The next application is Quick Daniel top of it. It's 0079.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to add before we start that the planning history hasn't actually referred to the previous application. It is actually included in the main body of the report. The reason why it's actually Frick and Yelped off is because access is in one parish, but the actual site itself is in another parish itself. The site actually comprises of the southern part of a large agricultural field, which is on the east side of M1, bounded by existing field hedges on three sides, and also motorway side planting. The northern boundaries are currently open and the land falls away steadily from south to north. Access is actually by unclassified James Road on the A48, which then runs along access, which follows a line of existing bridleway, which runs away from the site due south. Immediately east and north is actually the other technical path and part of Bilbourne Wind Farm, which are both operational at present. South of the site is the long-established gun club, which operates under permitted gun lines in respect of temporary use of the land. Nearest residential properties are Shenley Farm and Newhouse Farm, which are approximately 200 to 300 metres on the application site and to the west side of the motorway. Bilbourne, approximately 2 kilometres north, Gelbertop, 1.8 kilometres east, and Crick, 2.3 kilometres south. You'll see from the report that the application seeks consent for a change of use of the land and development to create a new motocross facility comprised of 4 containers to house an office, briefing room, toy facilities and staff crew. Formation of the car park is an earthworks for a motocross track and a junior motocross track. A water holes were excavated to serve as a sprinkler system which will be used to reduce dust emissions. The current application for members tonight seeks to address the reasons given by the District Council when it resolved to refuse the previous application. The reasons are set out in the report. Since this previous refusal, under permitted development rights, this use has been carried out on a temporary basis for a period not exceeding 14 days in the calendar year. One of these events, which have been carried out, has been witnessed by the Council's DHO officers, and the new application is also supported by an assessment of the actual motocross events carried out on the site. In principle, this type of development is judged to be appropriate and acceptable use of land. The site itself is relatively isolated in the open countryside, away from settlements where noise and general disturbance will be reduced to some extent by reason of distance. You'll see from the report of the general thrust of development plan policy seeks to restrict development in the open countryside. However, the plan also recognises the need to support rural economy by allowing for tourism and appropriate development in rural areas, recognising that diversification can contribute to strengthening the rural economy. Officers are satisfied that this type of activity can be supported in this location and have regard to the development plan policies. That said, the impact of development remains to be considered in terms of highway safety, the visual impact on the wider landscape, noise and dust, and general disturbance and ecology. We see from the report that these are all issues which have been raised by the representations received. In respect of highways, despite its proximity to the M1 motorway, no objection have been raised by highway movement, subject to the position of conditions. Similarly, the highway guidance has also raised no objections. In terms of visual impact, officers consider the proposal will not adversely detract from the character and appearance of the wider landscape, and in further mitigation is also proposing a northern boundary to reduce its impact on the wider landscape. More than equally, it's accepted that public footpaths and bridleways would be affected. However, this is limited to the immediate area and is restricted and may also be mitigated by way of conditions. In terms of noise, the noise assessment submitted is based on actual activity on the site, and the comments received from your OEO officers indicate that previous concerns have been satisfactorily addressed subject to the imposition of the conditions. These conditions seek to restrict days and hours of operation, limit the number of bikes on the circuit or ways to use the circuit at any one time, and secure proper management of the site to reduce noise pollution. In terms of dust and general disturbance, Highways England has advised that arrangements in place proposed by the applicant are sufficient and development will not compromise highway safety. Furthermore, the applicants have indicated that dust suppression is necessary part of the safe operation of the facility. In regard to these comments received and the imposition of conditions, officers are satisfied that this matter has been adequately addressed. In terms of ecology, the application site does not affect any of particular significance in terms of local, regional or even national designation. However, it is acknowledged that some representations have been received by parish council members with respect to this part of this element. And in response, the applicants have sought to provide enhanced opportunities for biodiversity. Officers considered that the mitigation measures would satisfy the aims of preserving and enhancing biodiversity. Overall, it's considered the reasons for refusing the previous application have been fully addressed and subject to the conditions set out in the report. Officer recommending this application be approved. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, John. We've got several speakers to this one. First speaker is Councillor Longley, who's the local county councillor, who's against it. Thank you, Chair.
For those that are not familiar with me, my name is Malcolm Longley. I'm the county councillor for Claycote, Millbourne, Yelvertoft and Crick. So all of my division is affected by this proposal. And I intend to speak against it tonight. As far as I can judge, and having had discussions, I can see very little different from the previous application, which was refused, apart really from the noise survey, which is significantly different. But my judgment on this, and the judgment of some technical people who will come on a bit later, is that is weak and inaccurate. The reason for that I'd say this is because the best way to look at this is to compare the background noise, which I'm not bothered to understand is significant here, with the very comprehensive study that was made with the wind farm some years ago. And they draw different conclusions. So we would go say here that in our opinion, the noise survey, which is quite trivial, needs to be discounted. The people from the parish council will expand on that. The recommendation for acceptance comes from a very experienced officer, can't fault his credentials there, and in isolation, I would say it's probably right. It's probably right. However, you've got to look at this in the totality of it. And these parishes already subjected to a gun club, regular basis, gun club. They had wind farms foisted upon them. And I was quoted that you can see 37 from Yelvertop. Now, I think we're way past a tipping point here. And I think that they're being dumped on. They've been dumped on. It's absolutely wrong. And so that's I think is the major point here. The amount of consultation with the villages, my understanding, has been pretty woeful. Got quite a few of the parish councillors here tonight. And I know a bit about these motorcycle events because I live fairly close to the one Buckley one. And their consultation is absolutely excellent. They have 4 meetings a year, and depending on which way the wind is blowing, it's going prevailing wind, we don't hear a thing. If it's the other way, it's horrendous. And we just go out. And 4 meetings a year, they're very polite, they make sure nobody parks anywhere in the wrong place. It's very good. So I think the consultation has been very workful here. And, finally, I'd go on to say that the application is opposed. Had a opposition from our local member of parliament. Certainly, I would oppose it. I'm pretty sure the local district, I see that Catherine's over there, I'm sure she's going to say something. Alan, I know, would oppose it if he was here tonight. The parish councillors all disagree. The locals, by and large, I think, it's fair to say, disagree. If we've got any democracy about us tonight, councillors, we should support the people that we're here to represent. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Right, the next person to speak is Mr. Herrings from Learmore Parish Council.
Chairman, members. My name is Andy Herrings and I'm Chair of Learmore Parish Council. For the past 37 years I've been involved with the automotive industry in an engineering capacity as Chief Engineer. I love motorsport, and I also freely admit I'm not an acoustic expert, but I do understand a little. The Parish Council and other residents of Learmore and Yelvertop have major concerns regarding this proposal. There has been permitted limited usage in the last few months pending the planning decision. The noise has most definitely been noticed. I've only been able to explain the current situation in answer to questions. A key statement made is the lack of facilities within 2 hours of the site. A simple search, however, shows 55 facilities and 60-mile radius easily drivable in 2 hours. Regarding the noise assessments, the latest report conclusion stated that the noise is below no observable effect level. If this is the case, why can the operation be heard clearly in a number of locations in the locality? Possibly due to our ever-changing climatic conditions that were not present on the day of monitoring. Or could it be that the data collected, so it appears, on only one day and then extrapolated to produce the assessment is not of sufficient quantity to be reliable? Study of the noise assessment produced for this application and comparing it to the comprehensive data sets collected for Yelvertop Wind Farm in 2008, Lilburn Wind Farm in 2010, which include comparable measuring locations, clearly show a distinct difference in the values obtained and the results produced in this report. Different computer modelling perhaps, or could it be an extrapolation too far? The surrounding topography hasn't changed in the period of 2008 to 16, nor has the M1. There is no mention of the DERF3 development's potential to reflect the sound from the site's activity. It is disturbing that very important decisions have been made using these assessments. Further, we believe too that too much emphasis has been put on the concept that noise from the M1 will mask noise from the proposed site. Noise is in a different octave band spectrum, and it is likely to occur at times such as weekends when the motorway may be quieter anyway. Perhaps members would consider a deferment and commission a truly independent assessment of all the data available for this area, past and present, or indeed another assessment study on behalf of Daventry District Council before a final decision is made to either approve or refuse this application on the basis of noise. We understand the recommendations from officers is to approve, but with restrictions. The proposed 4 days in a week would, in fact, allow for 8 days continuous running. If this project were approved, could this be altered to 4 days in a rolling 7-day period? This gives the same number of days, but would stop the potential for 8 days of continuous usage, as is possible from the end of 1 week, and 4 days at the start of the next week. Also, could the site be limited to 1 day in a weekend, with use on bank holidays also restricted? At what point may residents expect to enjoy their own surroundings without noise from the site? Surely the rights of residents to be able to expect some peace and quiet must be of paramount importance, with Millwall and Yalbert offices over 1,000 people. The application under consideration is not that different from the original, save an arguably flawed and more extensive sound evaluation.
Could you wind up now, please?
I certainly will. Surely this must be refused on the same grounds, which I believe is in the members' papers, concerning these local plans, policies and strategies. How can the council override their very clear previous conclusion that this entire proposal is inappropriate and contrary to the provisions as stated? We were strongly committed to refuse this application again. It may be worthy of note, and it's become apparent, and I've personally witnessed this on Sunday just gone at 12:20 Hill Morton Lane, which is a bridleway, 2 dirt bikes coming from the vicinity of the area, unlicensed, no lights, very loud exhausts, full kit on. I do not know whether they were at the site, but they then went down the public highway and drove straight through the village off somewhere else. We understand that this is quite a common occurrence with these sort of facilities. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Stevenson from Yalbert Parish Council.
Mr. Chairman, unfortunately Sam Stevenson has been...
So you're substituted? Right.
I'm Andy Wenham, I am Yalbert Parish Council.
Right, okay.
And with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I will read Mr. Stevenson's statement.
That's fine. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Okay. Sam Stevenson, School Close, Yalbert. I'm an environmental consultant, not an acoustics expert, but undertake reviews of acoustic reports as part of my work. The report by Sustainable Acoustics recommends that noise from the development should be considered in relation to ambient noise. Ambient noise includes bursts of high-level noise, such as passing aircraft, etc., which will increase the measured levels. Measurements of ambient noise will also be very variable. The measure of background noise removes occasional and transient high-level noise. Background noise levels tend to be much more reproducible for a given area. The noise from the development should be considered in relation to background noise and not against ambient noise. I also have queries relating to the modelled versus actual data and why this was not discussed in detail within the noise report. Section 4.3.2 of the report refers to background monitoring undertaken at Crick Lodge Farm, which started on the 22nd of May, and which is shown in Appendix 2, Figure 10. On the 22nd of May, from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m, VIP Motocross were running a track day, and the monitoring results show that ambient and background noise levels at Crick Lodge Farm were elevated during the track day, but by 5 p.m, when the track day had finished, ambient and background noise levels dropped between 10 and 15 decibels. Background noise for the same location on a Sunday is around 41 decibels, which supports the fact that the motocross event increased background noise levels at Crick Lodge Farm by up to 15 decibels on a Sunday. The predicted noise levels in the report are stated to be -4 to +1 decibels, but this is not supported by the data in Appendix 2, Figure 10, on the 22nd of May 2016. The consultant has stated that they've excluded the monitoring data for the 22nd of May 2016 as there were other noisy activities taking place. This was, in fact, the VIP Motocross track day, and there should have been discussion in the noise report on the modelled versus actual results obtained at Crick Lodge Farm. The predicted noise levels for the closest properties at Yalbert are predicted to be between 32 and 35 decibels, and the report notes that predicted levels do not include screening from Hill on Hill Morton Lane. Therefore, source noise level is likely to be around 5 to 10 decibels lower. The noise levels predicted at Yalbert should therefore be between -8 and -16 decibels in relation to the existing background. However, the existing noise of the motocross events is already intrusive and detracts from residents' amenity. It also detracts from the acoustic character of the area. Using the guidance within the planning practice guideline on noise, this will be considered as above the lowest observed adverse effect level, as it is noticeable and intrusive. The noise can be heard and causes small changes in behaviour and or attitude. Noise levels above the lowest observed adverse level should be mitigated and reduced. However, the report concludes that no mitigation is required. The report has also summarised the noise policy statement for England, with the third aim being, where possible, contribute to the improvement of health and quality of life.
Could you wind up again, please?
I will indeed. The development, as it is currently operated, detracts from the quality of life of villagers in Yelvertoft by creating intrusive noise. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Lowe from Crick Parish Council.
Chairman, Councillors, my name is Roger Lowe, Chairman of Crick Parish Council. One of the main problems faced by Crick nowadays is traffic, parking, congestion around the co-op, congestion around shops. Our view is that this event happening 200 days a year is going to greatly increase that problem, so that our traffic and congestion and parking around the co-op will get worse. Our business in the village do not need the extra business from the motocross. Going on to noise, that's also a concern, and it's difficult to evaluate this, but there are different types of noise, and this has been touched on. For all our villages, the M1 has a constant quite high decibel noise, but it's not very noticeable. What we do notice is somebody backing a lorry in dirt, which may be a lower decibel, but is far more intrusive. The gun club's intrusive, and we believe, where the conditions are right, this motocross activity is going to be very intrusive on our village. There's much said about constraints. To me, 200 days a year is significantly more than 14, not significantly less than 300, and I think it's more or less like having it all the time, as far as the village is concerned. There's talk about mitigation of noise. My belief and experience is the only way you can mitigate this noise will be to stick it in a warehouse with soundproofing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Right, the last person to speak, Mr. Green, is the agent, and I intend to give him longer time should he need it to make up for all the other overruns. Okay, so if you want an extra minute and a half, you can certainly...
No, that's okay, I should be fairly short and sweet. So, my name is Chris Green, planning consultant at Andrew Granger and Company, acting on behalf of the applicant. Whilst I don't wish to repeat the description of the proposal already provided, the application seeks the change of use to provide a motocross practice facility and associated works. Prior to today's determination, the applicants have exercised their rights under the General Permitted Development Order to allow temporary use of the site for the proposed purpose. This has enabled substantial and comprehensive noise assessments to be carried out in collaboration with both the planning case officer and the council's own environmental health officer. Within his representations on the assessment, the EHO states on page 83 of today's report that the report provides a robust assessment of the noise likely to emanate from the track and the background noise levels in the area. The report shows that the track can be operated in such a manner that nearby residential properties are not exposed to excessive noise in the absence of The assessment has clearly concluded that the proposed use of the site will not result in any adverse impact on health or quality of life as a result of noise, a statement proven to the satisfaction of the EHO. As shown on the summary of the open track days that has been provided to you, the facility has achieved strong levels of interest, proving without doubt the demand for a facility of this standard in the area. Whilst the application was submitted to allow 7 days a week operation in order to give the applicant a level of flexibility, the use is very much dependent on weather. The applicants have agreed to limit the use to 4 days per week, including a reduction in opening hours. The location of the site has been considered acceptable and appropriate for the proposed facility, taking the existing nearby land uses into account, whilst a number of conditions have been agreed to limit and mitigate against any adverse impact upon the wider landscape. Given the fact that there are no technical or planning constraints against the application, we urge members to determine the application in line with the recommendation for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Right, local members.
Chairman, I'd like to come back.
John?
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to come back on a number of issues which have been raised by speakers tonight, really. Councillor Longley raised some concerns regarding management of the size and full consultation of the events which have occurred already. Certainly, members are minded to approve the application tonight. I would, given the concern about the full consultation, we could add a condition on to suggest that a management scheme be submitted to us for approval, which would include consulting parishes and properties in the nearby vicinity prior to an event taking place. Milbourne Parish Council also raised some concerns about being 4 consecutive days running in a row, which would result to 8 events consecutively. Again, these comments regarding that can be taken on board, and the conditions can be altered to take that into account as well, to ensure that only 4 events and they're broken up then by some days which was not occur on. Equally, members that felt that 4 days was too substantial, they could seek to reduce those number of days or to restrict them so that only 1 day in the weekend could be used, and like I said, and then a smaller number of days during the course of the week. What I would say is that there is a number of concerns raised regarding noise. In terms of noise itself, noise alone is not a reason for refusal. It's only when the noise becomes of such significance that a place becomes a wholly undesirable place to live, that it becomes such significance to warrant a reason for refusal. If members recall, when they were considering the wind farms, noise again was also an issue there, and in the case of the wind farms, the lavender test was applied, and the lavender test, like I said, sets out that noise is noise nuisance which becomes an issue rather than noise itself. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Joe. Right, that's 2 of the local members. Councillor Robertson first, you're a member of the committee.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to refer to Councillor Lomax if you were allowed to speak.
Councillor Lomax, you can go first. Sorry, there's no tree to stand there.
Notwithstanding the officers' comments committee about noise, I do want to talk about noise, but first I just want to make one. Oh, I'm sorry, I was.
No, you carry on. Don't worry about waving arms.
I do want to make one comment about traffic, and that is traffic coming up the A5 from the south already uses Crick as a rat run to get to the M1, and undoubtedly anyone coming to this site from the south up the A5 will also take that route. So, I think that is something to be borne in mind. I do want to talk about noise. We know about noise in my ward. Kilsby and Barbie having suffered from noise nuisance from a shooting club for years. It came to statutory nuisance level and beyond. And even today, with mitigating bunding and only a light breeze and a hill in between, in my road the reports and echoes sounded as if the shooting was actually taking place in the next street. So that is the level of the noise that comes from a shooting club. People are entitled to take part in their chosen sport, but it should be with a balance where there are adjacent communities. It should not be at the expense of those communities. Shooting, even from multiple stands at once, results in an individual report followed by the echoes, and yet this can create a high level of new noise up to the point of statutory nuisance. Motocross at this site produces a totally different type of noise. Insistent, persistent, continuous, and varying in tone and pitch as bikes accelerate and slow down. And that's up to 40 machines at once. Noise pollutes. We know well that noise causes disturbance, annoyance, stress, and even more importantly, can contribute to ill health. While I'm glad to see that the conditions restrict activities to 4 days, that is too many hours for the people of Yelvertoft and Creek and the other parishes which are affected. Remember that phrase, quiet enjoyment, to which we are all entitled, particularly on summer evenings in our own gardens. You've already heard about the existing ambient and background noise. The committee ensure that the people in Yelvertoft, Crick, Lilbourne and other villages can have that quiet enjoyment by refusing this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Councillor Robson.
Thank you, Chair. Let me just get back to the planning watchwords here. Sustainability. What does that mean exactly to this development? I think it really means that the development has to be of benefit to the majority, or at least as far or as many of the majority as we can possibly make it. Now, this area, as has been mentioned before, has become the dumping ground for every type of, I think it's called sui generis, basically non-use class type of development that there is. I've just listed a few out here. Basically, we have marinas, shooting clubs, equestrian businesses, wind turbines, helicopter landing pads, and large-scale developments of warehouses and rail terminals, all in this area. And I think that's too much, quite honestly. Okay, we can't, as members of the older generation, deny younger people a method of blowing off steam, which, and let's face it, motocross is largely young people taking part, but younger people, certainly younger than me anyway. And but that doesn't mean that we can't try and persuade them to do it in a more, if you like, considerate way. I thought that the object of motorsport was speed, really, and that's thrill. So why are they so noisy? Why have they got to be so noisy? And this goes throughout motorsports, quite frankly. Is it because it adds to the attraction? Is it because it adds to the excitement? I don't know. But I don't think that that amount of noise is considerate enough for this planning development to proceed. Now, I can't say that this isn't a fairly good place to put it, because it is. I know the area very well. But everybody is against it. And I'm afraid I take a similar attitude.
Thank you. Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Chairman. I spoke on this last time, and I'm going to speak on it yet again. And my point is the noise. I see that that there has been a noise assessment, but I'm not sure how much I will relate to that, to be honest. I do have a race car, and I race it quite regularly. I am not against motorsport. I follow numerous all motorsport that there is, and absolutely love it. But it needs to be when it's in the countryside, in the right area. This isn't the right area for it. I feel sorry for them, and I really do, for the applicants and the people, the kids and everybody there, because it's fantastic. It's a fantastic thing for young kids to get into, because it gives them, it gives them everything. It's not just enjoyment, it gives them confidence and everything to go forward in life, and it's brilliant. But we've got to think about the residents around the area, okay? My car, when we go racing, you have to do a check of range, and then if not, you're not allowed on the track, even if it's over by a couple of decibels. When I start my race car up, which I always am very well aware of the neighbours, which luckily really do love my race car, but you can hear it in everybody's houses, and it does actually shake some of the people's furniture in their room. and that's for a race car in that close proximity. When I go racing and when I'm driving to it, you can hear people practicing and everything on the track, far away from villages, far away from the racetrack itself. This to me is in too much close proximity, and I really do think again that this can't go ahead for the people, because both outweighs the residents of all the surrounding villages. It actually outweighs the poor people, which I do feel sorry for, that want to race. And you've got to remember that when it says about noise and about refusing it on noise, it is. I thought it was the effect on the residents to not be able to enjoy their time, so it's actually having an effect on them, so they can't sit out in their outside area and enjoy their day, which they normally would, or have their windows open or anything. Like I said, I do feel very, very sorry for them, but you know, as other people have said, other members have said about the shooting range and the wind turbines, amongst other stuff, but most of them are, you know, you sort of you get them in the countryside, so you're used to shooting, we are used to, unfortunately, to the sound of the wind turbines. I just think that they need to find another area, when I do think that, unfortunately, this application would be refused on exactly the same as before, because nothing has changed in my mind at all.
No proposal, Councillor?
Yes, that is a proposal, Chairman.
Do you have a seconder? Councillor Frenchman. Right, have you finished speaking, Councillor? Would you wish to speak at the moment, Councillor Frenchman, or reserve your right?
I'll let the others who thought. I will speak, but let the others.
Okay. Councillor Irving-Swift.
Yes, listening to all the speakers, it's quite clear, beside Crick and Catherine Lomax, who were concerned about the traffic, the main sticking point is the noise, and the report of the noise. Because according to one speaker, the noise was much more than it said in the report. So could we defer the application if the application is not refused? Could I later propose that we defer and we have a proper noise assessment that is completely independent?
Well, we have a proposal already, but I shall ask Jen to come back on the point you made.
And I think first and foremost, we need, if members are minded to refuse the application based on concerns regarding noise, we must have regard to the comments received from your own environmental health officers, who themselves have actually been out to one of the events. And secondly, if members are not confident that the noise assessment adequately addresses their concerns, yes, there is an opportunity to defer the application, and I'm sure the applicant will wholly accept that if members wish to, they could go and visit one of the events to assess what that noise level was, and then to consider the noise level from the villages of Lilbourne and Yalford, Ofton, Crick during when the event's actually taking place. So yes, perhaps it's your question is yes, it can be deferred for a site visit to consider those elements.
Could I ask the proposer if she would be happy to do that, or we go for, because if we go for a refusal, the applicant can appeal, and on appeal I'm not sure.
So what are you suggesting, Councillor Swift? Are you suggesting that we defer? We have 40 bikes going around there, we have a minibus and we drive to different locations, listen to the thing, and then come back here and make a decision on another day?
Yes.
Is that what you're suggesting?
What I'm suggesting is that if Councillor Osborne want to refuse with those grounds, my fear is that if we refuse on those grounds, if on appeal the applicant win, we have nothing to go back to. where if we can prove that the noise survey has been faulty or we have a better ground, we are on a better footing if we want to refuse. That is my view.
She does have a point, Councillor Osborne.
Can I just say, I do understand that, and Councillor Irvinsmith does have a point, but I do get really upset and worked up where we're at a planning meeting and people are already on about appeals. I know that, we know that a lot of times that does happen, but we shouldn't be discussing that. We're here, we're looking at this now, and it isn't actually, I mean, it is a good point, but it isn't actually, it's not feasible that you did defer it and then exactly what you said, that they put on a day and then we all go. Surely, Councillor Chairman.
It is possible, Councillor Osborne, that if you put your proposal to the committee, you may win or you may lose. If you withdraw the proposal and accept the proposal for deferment and go and listen to the things from different points and make an independent opinion yourself.
I'd happily go, Chairman.
I don't mean you personally, but I mean the committee. Perhaps you're in a better position to then make the same proposal that you're making. The officers are saying it could be dodgy using noise for the same reason as last time because of the assessment.
If I may, Chairman, as the manager also responsible for environmental health, I do need to stress that I've got every sympathy with people who feel like they're experiencing noise issues, but at the end of the day, noise is something that is legislated for, and our environmental health officers have gone out and done extensive tests with noise monitoring equipment, and it is their professional view. This is not something that's been done lightly. So actually, on the one hand, whilst members could go and do a site visit and experience for themselves the background levels and so on coming from the site, ultimately, hearing something does not necessarily mean it's a noise problem. And I can also give you some assurance insofar as we have had recent examples in the district where our environmental health team have successfully prosecuted people who have been causing statutory nuisance from motocross facilities in this district, and that wasn't something that came to this committee because it's stuff that's happening through permitted development, through good conditions being applied and then taking robust action when they're not followed. We've had a successful prosecution, and that is managing noise nuisance. So we have to bear in mind that there are different bits of legislation around this. But it's very subjective, but ultimately, if we're going to go to appeal, I'm sorry to use the word, but if we have to go and defend ourselves at an appeal, what will count will be the evidence we can provide to support a reason for refusal.
I think that's the point I wanted to make, really. It's our duty to point out to you that where you've against the advice of your officers, which is backed up by your own in-house experts, obviously where a decision's been overturned and it's going to be a refusal rather than an approval, which is what we had last time round, there is a right to appeal. And you have to have regard really to what might happen in that situation, and obviously because you've got the training on costs awards, etc., there are punishments for failure to produce sufficient evidence to back up your reasons for refusal. So that's why it's legitimate to raise it with you really and to say, do you really want to do this? Because all the experts are saying there isn't a problem with it. So what are we going to the appeal with is what we're really saying. Now someone suggested, okay, we'll get another noise consultant. Well, we can appoint our own noise consultant if there's no confidence in the other one. But as we've seen before, if they come back and say, we agree with the two other noise consultants, the one that the applicant did and the environmental health officers of your own council, then you really are going to struggle basically to say you've got to be refused on noise nuisance. But I mean, I'd rather you did that, to be honest, than go to an appeal and say we've got no evidence, Mr. Inspector, because that will obviously be looked on as bad behaviour and we'll get a punishment and an award of costs against us. And that's why we raise the issue of appeal in this scenario.
Thank you. Right, back to you, Councillor Osborne. You were asked whether you wanted to take away your proposal and or not, after what you've heard. Do you want to let it stand?
After what I've heard, then I don't know. I'm in two minds
Shall I
because
put it to me
I do know what it's like. I've been, I go, I'm there, I've raised, so
Well,
I know what it's like.
But he says as well.
Well, you did ask me. I did let me start and interrupting, Chairman. But yeah, maybe it would be a good idea if everybody is perfectly happy to go. My worry is that not everybody will want to go.
Well, the alternative is, as Keith just said, we could employ another consultant to find out, but you run the risk of the consultant saying your own people are right and the people applying are right. Councillor Fetchman.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, I seconded that, but having heard the proposal from Councillor Erling Swift, I'm slightly conflicted at the moment. However, reading through the report, I noticed that the British Horse Society has raised some very significant issues which I feel have been brushed under the carpet by the response from the officer in the report, because the British Horse Society say it's dangerous because there is actually a jump next to the bridleway, and they're very concerned about accidents and danger to users. Well, I think that in itself is probably grounds for it to be taken a bit more cautiously, because that's obviously sound and jumping and action right next to the bridleway. The other thought I had was, of course, is that the rugby development is coming on board, which is really just the other side of the motorway, where there'll be 6,000 houses, and I can't believe that if we allow this, that there will not be some evidence from them that this is a nuisance to them in due course. But I'd also make the point that noise doesn't have to be loud to be a nuisance. It can spoil the amenity of your garden if the guy next door is just mowing his lawn constantly, and I've had that, or he's trimming his hedge all the time. Noise in itself is a nuisance. It's not always the level of the noise that is the nuisance. And the prevailing wind is actually from the northwest, as I believe, so it's blowing right down over Crick and Yelvertoft. So that will exacerbate the problems. But I would like to see a more comprehensive noise survey done, and therefore I withdraw my second of the proposal.
So coming back to what I'm hearing so far, are you more happy then to for this committee to appoint an independent noise consultant?
I think that was just a referral for more information, wasn't it, Chairman?
No,
I think it's what the Chair said.
I think this is listening to what people are saying. First of all, Councillor Irving Swift want to go around. That was decried by yourself because it wouldn't make any difference. You've still got professionals saying that the noise. I can see you there, so, because of the noise. So then a couple of people have spoken, and it seemed the way that people were responding to it, that it would be a good idea to employ a consultant to be able to. Is that what the committee's thinking?
That's what I was thinking, Chair.
That's what you were thinking.
You drew my second of Councillor Osborne.
Right. Well, I never took Councillor Irving Swift as a proposal. Do we have another proposal then?
Can I propose that we appoint a
independent?
Thank you.
Right. Do you have a seconder for that? Right, Councillor Patchett. Right. The order of speakers I've got. Do you wish to speak, Councillor Patchett? Then I've got Councillor Ritchie and Councillor Edmonds.
I don't think there's anything else to say, Chair. We've pretty much covered it all.
Okay, Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you. Well, look, I support the idea of doing further tests, getting another opinion on the noise. But I do think that at the same time there is this subjective feel about what is a noise nuisance. And I think there needs to be a way in which, if we are going to take the decisions, the option should be there for us to actually be able to hear what it looks like at a time that we know that there are 40 bikes, 40 championship bikes using the circuit. So I think that we need to be involved as well. We don't simply want get more decibel readings, but we've got to understand the qualitative side of it. But I also think that if we are getting a consultant, it should not be just about how much noise will these events make, but what can actually be done to offset the noise. I mean, I'm very conscious of the fact that, that unless we're going to ban motorsports, we have got to find places where they can take place. On the side of a motorway, a mile from the nearest villages, seems a perfectly sensible place to me if you're going to do it. That having been said, as Councillor Womack has pointed out, I'm the near shot of a shooting range. That is a huge problem, and it may be that the way forward may need to be a combination of looking for ways in which we mitigate noise and ways in which we control it. In terms of time, I still find that 4 days a week of extra noise would be, I would regard as being unreasonable. I would regard it unreasonable to have noise on both a Saturday and a Sunday of the same weekend. But on the other hand, I know that this is a sport that is there that many enjoy, and I'm sure that although our councillor from Crick said that Crick businesses, feel they have good enough business, I'm sure if you go in and ask the co-op in Crick, they would be delighted at the idea of more people coming to use their shop. I just don't buy some of these arguments. And I just think that we've got to recognise that there is a balance that we must find that there's a place where there's a balance that can be struck.
I have to correct you there. I think the co-op at Crick would not. If you were local to Crick and you knew that corner and you knew the people there, they wouldn't welcome anybody else going there. So I have to make that point.
Don't tell that to the senior management of the co-op then.
I'm sure the manager of the co-op will say the same thing. Right. I'm now getting that what you're saying is an independent consultant and a site visit.
Yes.
Is that the feeling so far? So that's the feeling so far. Right, the next person to speak is Councillor Ed.
Thank you, Chairman.
Then Councillor Wesley next.
I've looked at the conditions half a dozen times, and in this, it says the second item is within 3 months of the date of this approval, a noise management plan shall be submitted for written approval to the LPA. If they decide it's been done. 2B says monitoring of noise levels from individual bikes on track and a written procedure for excluding bikes and their owners to ensure compliance with current Autocycle Union noise standards. Statement detailing any noise mitigation and commitments with maintenance. And then over here, it goes into lots of other things, lights and everything else, management noise. And then further down on number 4, it says within 28 days from receipt of a written request from the LPA and following a complaint to the LPA, which the LPA considers as justified, relating to the operation of the track from the occupant of a dwelling which lawfully exists or has planning permission at the date of this consent, the operator must, at its own expense, and it goes into employing an independent consultant, to come and do a noise thing. Well, if it's too noisy and they don't do what it says in this noise management plan, and people start complaining, and they find that they have to have an independent consultee come in and pay them to come and do it every time somebody complains, they're going to make sure if they're a bit above where they're supposed to be, they're going to get it down to where it should be. They're not going to keep paying out. And to me, it looks quite a comprehensive noise management plan. So why do we need to have somebody in? Approve it and let it prove itself one way or the other. Because if it doesn't do what it's supposed to, we've got the facilities here and such like to stop it.
Councillor Wesley.
I'm actually agreeing with Councillor Regan on this. I think we have to be a little bit realistic. Nobody wants a motorbike track in close proximity to where they live, but nobody wants anything in close proximity to where they live. And that is a problem. If you look at the map as to where it is, everyone's saying, oh, we don't really mind motorbike tracks, but let's put it somewhere else. Well, where else do you put it? If you move it 2 miles over, you're in somebody else's backyard, and if you move it 2 miles the other way, you're in somebody else's backyard. We live in a crowded island, and if we are going to have motorbike tracks, they're going to be somewhere. And it comes down to what Councillor Eden has just actually said. There's a lot of conditions on this. The noise evaluation has been carried out in the background of existing events as well. And I think it's unfortunate. I sympathise. I sympathise with everything. It's like lawn mowing. It's banging. It's crashing. It's work. It's everything. It does actually get you. But that is where we live. And unless we're banning these things completely, which we can't and won't, then they've got to be somewhere. And I actually think, in the scheme of things, it's probably a good site. And I have to say, I have to go along with. I do sympathise with people, but I have to go along with others' advice on this.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson.
Yes, the noise, and I agree with what Councillor Avon said. The trouble is when the planning is being given, we just have a remedial aspect. We can just stop it. So why not to make sure that everything is right and have the parishes on site who will tell you where the pitch points are, where the noise are. Maybe they can monitor from there. So like that, when everything, we will have a report that will make everybody, if it's underneath the level, we cannot really, as Wesley said, we will have to agree because we will have no statutory nuisance. So it's just to make sure that we have ticked all the boxes. That's all. But have a discussion also with the parish that they are part of the solution.
Councillor Parker.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I've heard what's been said, and one of the things is about the conditions. What I'm struggling with, if I'm reading this right, on page 98, third paragraph, according the EHO, which is ourselves, advise on a range of conditions to limit hours 10 to 6, limit days no more than 4 days a week, and the noise management plan as advocated by the applicant noise consultant. The EHO does concede that if the council does not receive complaints about noise, a further application to vary these conditions could be made to extend the use. So am I right in saying if nothing comes in, the applicants could go for 7 days a week?
I can come back. I mean, ultimately, that is always a new application could be received. But on the other hand, I'm also very familiar with the fact that Environmental Health have made recommendations to reduce times and reduce the number of days, and that is still an option available to members.
That's not what it says here, though. It says the EHA concede that if the council does not receive complaints about noise, a future application to vary these conditions could be made to extend the use.
That's always going to be the case.
So, in other words, that could happen, and the council would find it very difficult, surely, to say no if no noise reached above a level which consultants put in. Wouldn't they?
Through you, Chairman, as I said, every application has to file if you seek to impose any conditions on, there's a right of appeal, or there's a right to submit an application to vary or to remove any conditions. Equally, obviously, if there is no complaints received, then clearly the activities are being operated within acceptable noise levels.
Well, to a level of noise, yes.
Okay.
That's what it's saying. Therefore, if it doesn't exceed that, and that's a limit I suspect we're going to agree on soon, they could then go and vary the conditions. That's what I'm asking.
The answer is yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Right, Councillor Paul.
Thank you, Chairman. I think it's Councillor Parker and Councillor Daventry have covered it, and Councillor Eden. It's covered within the conditions, and I think we should go to a vote. But can I clarify? I've missed about 3 minutes of the debate, Chairman. Am I allowed to vote?
I'm afraid you're not, Councillor Paul.
Thank you very much indeed, Chairman.
I must make the point, when we had the one at Longbutley that was driving people mad, it took between 5 and 10 years to close down. The argument from the officers will be, there's new legislation. But believe me, they took to court by environmental health. Environmental health put monitors in people's houses, because I saw them, I went to repair the television. The they were there, but it still took between 5 and 10 years to close it down.
I can also clarify, the case I referred to earlier didn't actually have any complainants, but Environmental Health took action in the wider public interest, even though people hadn't complained, because we could prove that noise nuisance was in existence and they were going beyond the permitted conditions that had been put in place through a noise abatement notice. We were able to successfully prosecute. So, that is something we do in Environmental Health.
Right. We have a proposal that has been seconded, that's been varied a couple of times, but stop me if I'm wrong. The proposal is to defer the application, to employ a consultant to give us an independent view on it, and also have a site visit as well to get our own members' view on it. That's when the 40 bikes are roaring round from different points. Is that the proposal? Have I got it?
Yes.
Right, and that's the seconder as well. Right, all those in favour of that proposal, please show. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those against? 3. Right. The proposal to defer, it has won. So the application will be deferred. There will be a site visit with members where we'll travel to 3 different points as the bikes are working, and we'll get a professional person to... Sorry? You wish to say
He's going to ask the same as me.
Well,
what would you like to ask?
I would ask that those that voted in favour of a site visit, their names be taken to ensure that they do actually go to the site visit.
Well, I'm sure they will. I also expect the ones that didn't vote for it to come as well.
Can I just make an extra point that we make it that it's the championship bikes. It's not the small little kids that have got the tiny little bikes. It's a proper big bikes that make the.
Well, I'm sure part of the site visit will be to actually see the site, to see the bikes that are going round.
Sorry, Chair, there aren't any championship bikes. They're not championship bikes, they're practice facility.
Okay. We'll see the appropriate bikes when we go there. So that is the result of your voting, that the application is deferred for a site visit and to appoint an independent noise man. Okay?
That's
what I mean. We're spending council money when we could do for something else.
If anybody from the top wants to go, we'll leave it a few seconds. Oh yeah. How many people left now?
You're all on your own.
You're the only one now.
More people left than not on the site visit.
Right, then we move on to 0455 application Malt.
Thank you, Chair. Just like for us to capture, it's the Salisbury landscape site as was, which, as you know, got planning permission on appeal. The subject of the unilateral undertaking, and we've got a plan that shows you what was in the unilateral undertaking. There we are, POS plan for the unilateral undertaking, that one, that's it. Originally, the open space. Originally, the open space was going to be along the frontage of the site, which is at the bottom there. But now they've come to submit reserve matters, that's been changed. And now want to put development along the front of the site to the open space goes to the rear, which we think is quite sensible anyway, given the lie of the land. And at the same time, I think the one on the first, sorry, showing the one previously approved. That's it. At the same time as previously approved footpath arrangement, which shows a footpath running along the side of the road, as you see there. And what's been proposed as an alternative to that now is to, what we think is quite sensible, take the footpath through the hedge there. There's a little piece across the open space in the corner, and then it goes to the turning there. It runs along the cul-de-sac that's going to be there, pops back out again at the front. And the main reason it's been brought before the committee is that the highway authority, as you see, are not happy with that. They've set out what they've said in the report and in the light reps. But effectively, what they're after would be having two footpaths running parallel, one inside the cul-de-sac and one down the edge of the road, which is quite a rural-looking road. As you can see in the photos there, that's the line for those who are not familiar with it. And our view is, well, people can walk through the hedge, across the open space, onto the cul-de-sac. The county have said things about people don't like walking the other side of the hedge, it's not safe, etc. I think, as you'll see from the plans, you can have a look at the proposed layout plan that we have. That one. Yeah. But effectively, people are just going to walk off the footpath there, through into an open space where they can be seen anyway, and down a public road, effectively, in front of the houses. So, duplicating that footpath at the back of the houses, from the side point along the back, just seems a bit daft to us. And also the open space footpath at the other end has now been brought in with this part of the footpath, rather than a footpath running down here and turning back again into the side path. So basically we're quite happy with that. I think it's quite sensible. Protects people's safety because, as I say, for the vast majority it's still a public footpath in a public street which they can be seen safely. It saves having to tear up the grass verge in a rural area and put an urbanising footpath down it. That's an entrance into the site, by the way. That's not actually on the road. That's the roadside. And we think on that basis that we can't agree with the objection from the highway authority. That said, you'll see they have made noises about Section 278 agreement, and there might get into difficulties about that. But I think the answer at the moment is we just deal with this on these planning principles rather than worry about road adoption. And if that has to be addressed or it alters planning proposal further on, we can bring it back to committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Everyone speaking, Mr. Joanne.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm Chris Dwan, Planning Manager of Grant Homes, the applicant. We're delighted to have the opportunity to develop the former Salisbury Landscape site, having recently purchased it. As has been detailed, the site comes with the benefit of outline approval for 70 units, having been previously granted on appeal. Notably, however, the outline permission, as currently approved, is relatively restrictive in relation to the proposed location of open space and also through the inclusion of the aforementioned pedestrian footpath. When we reviewed the site parameters ahead of preparing our reserve matters scheme, it became apparent to us that both the outline approved principal location of the open space and the inclusion of the footpath at the front do not offer the correct design interpretation for the site. In the case of the open space, if we were to focus it towards the front of the site with houses to be located up along the northern site edge, that would mean for a significant raising of levels across the site to facilitate this, and personally will make the development far more prominent within the views looking towards the site from the countryside beyond. Accordingly, we are proposing in this instance to focus the open space to the northern and western edges of the development to provide a more rural fringe to reflect our site's location on the edge of the village. That said, we also recognise the need to maintain the established green fringe that fronts the site along Broughton Road in its current form. However, if we are to include the previously approved pedestrian footpath, that green fringe will be compromised to facilitate the construction of the path. Essentially, the footpath will require retaining, the bulk of which will have to be built out directly within the protection areas of both the established trees and the hedgerows in that area. As such, all the hedgerows and trees will have to be taken out to accommodate it. As an alternative, we would prefer a scheme whereby the pedestrian footfall for the site can be safely directed through the site itself via the entrance point to the southeast corner. Our design response has been sensitive to the impact that the development will have upon the surrounding area, and we believe that the proposed changes put forward via this Section 73 application are essential to ensure that the scheme is delivered in a manner that is as aesthetically complementary to the village and wider area as is possible. We are mindful of the Highways Authority objection in this instance. However, we see the adoption issue that they have raised as separate from the planning merits of the proposals, and we can assure the committee that we have relevant contingency plans in place should the Highway Authority not be willing to subsequently adopt the estate roads if our preferred access solution is deemed as acceptable here today. Given this, we would welcome your support in backing the officer's recommendation in this instance to approve the amendments proposed and to allow us to provide the most suitable design response for the benefit of the site, the village and the wider rural fringe. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. No local member here. Any comments? Sounds logical to me. I don't know about you.
Yes.
Cecilia Irvins was first.
Well,
You were second.
I think we should go with officer advice.
Thank you. Are you seconding that, Councillor?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're all second day.
All in agreement, please show. Right. So your scheme sensible, the officers recommended it sensible.
If you send a letter to the highway chairman and ask them where they propose that both ends of that footpath go to.
I shouldn't bother with that
I
one.
think the thing that I thought was a little bit ridiculous is if you think about it, people are actually going to live in those houses and they're going to walk out onto the footpath in front of their houses. If they then have to walk in the opposite direction to the village to go round the original entrance and then walk all the way back down the footpath,
Yeah.
it would be crazy, wouldn't it, really?
I'm with you.
Right.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Well, the application is 0475 and it's at Woodford Commemorates or Woodford Homes.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to call fine the village and forms a triangular area of land to enclose a residential development to the north and west. You'll see from the site location plan, it's actually a rural village facility comprising of retail units, takeaway and restaurants located to the east. The land level is 4 west, with the dwelling on Sydney Road being located on a lower land level on the application site, and the Newton Station Road being elevated above the application site. The site currently accommodates a block of 4 garages located to the north of the site with access via a 5-bar gate from Cherwell Terrace. The application seeks to demolish that block of garages, which is currently not in use, and to construct a detached bungalow with attached garage. Existing access is being maintained for entry to the site. I'm sure members are more than familiar with policy R1 now, which sets out the special statutory rural areas and when we set out criteria which should be met in improving residential developments in rural areas. Obviously, the latter part of policy R1 advises that further residential development only be permitted where it can be demonstrated that it results in environmental improvements, i.e. the reuse of previous developed land, which is required to support the retention or improvement of local service that may be under threat, has been informed by an effective community involved in exercise prior to submission application to rural site or has been agreed through an adopted neighbourhood plan. If we consider each of those elements in turn, would it result in an environmental improvement? The site does not form part of residential coverage of any existing zone, but does provide garaging. The removal of disused garages, in officer's opinion, would represent an improvement to meet this area and is also inclusive of land. Is it required to support the retention of or improvement of essential services that are under threat? There's no evidence that such services are under threat. Has it been reported by a community involvement exercise? Applicants have undertaken community involvement engagement and evidence of such exercise has been provided to support the application. Is it the Royal Exception Site application has not been submitted on this basis? Has it been approved through an adopted neighbourhood plan? There's no adopted neighbourhood plan. In regard to this criteria, it's considered that it does meet the tests of 1 and 3 in the application does accord with the last part of policy R1. In terms of the actual design of the proposal and also the proposed access, you'll see from the report that officers have no objection to the proposal. The surrounding area is characterised predominantly residential dwelling, and the proposed modest hipped roof single-storey dwelling, while not of the same character, would not be a detriment to the existing street scene nor the visual newness of the area. The proposed design and character will therefore meet these objectives. it's noted that the county highways officer has objected to the development as the proposal is not able to accommodate the visibility displays as required by the standards. However, the fallback position is that the site currently has the benefit for use as 4 garages, and whilst its garages are currently disused, such use have only been reinstated without further notice to the highway authority. The proposed access arrangements for the application allow for on-site turning and for vehicles to exit the site in a forward manner. It's also a material consideration that the proposed use will attract a lower number of vehicle movements associated with this established permitted use. Furthermore, the site benefits from a high-level alternative transport modes and the provision of day-to-day facilities within a very short walking distance. Having regard to these site-specific circumstances, officers consider that the development will not be such severity as substantiate reason for refusal on highway grounds. And in regards to all matters as set out in the report, we're recommending this application be approved. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. Local Member Councillor Paget.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Well, you'll note, members, that the Parish Council is very keen on this application being approved. You will also note that in the housing needs survey, bungalows are very much a wanted item in Woodford House. I wish Highway would pay more attention to bigger applications than they've done to this one, but there we are, that's another story. So I'm quite happy to propose approval of officer's advice.
Seconded, no doubt.
Yeah.
Councillor Frenchman, you don't wish to speak to
No, just...
all those in agreement, please show. That's unanimous. Okay. And the very last application, 0591, is not negated.
Just before I start, Chairman, notice that the speaker's not here.
No.
Right. Okay. Citing Malton, it's the community building, the school, and it's the sports hall, and it incorporates part of the village hall. And they need to want to put one of these security fences round, which has become a very common issue now. As you'll see, the parish council agreed to the rationale behind the scheme, but they have got concerns about the enclosure of the community building with fencing by the village hall, and object to the inclusion of that within the scheme. So they're not here to speak. Having said all that, I mean, there is going to be access through the gate to the village hall, but obviously at times where there's no legitimate access available, the gates will be locked to reduce incidents of antisocial behaviour, etc., which is no doubt why the fence is being sourced in any event. Given that they could also put it up without planning permission up to 2 metres high, but this is 2.4, I think we feel, well, it is acceptable and necessary modern day feature, unfortunately. So all that basis we are recommending approval, Chairman.
Thank you, Keith. Do we have a proposal? That is a proposal, is it, Councillor? It is indeed. Second, Councillor Oden. All those in favour? Thank you. Oh, that's it. The meeting is finished.